I have high organic rankings for one keyword. What should I do with this keyword campaign? Lower the bid, pause it, change multiplier focus from top of search to rest of search. What you want to do is be very careful that you don't screw up the momentum that you currently have. Pausing it is going to be a little bit too drastic, so I wouldn't recommend pausing it. The other thing that I would take a look at is how happy are you with the ACoS of this specific campaign. If you're happy with the ACoS and performance is overall good, then I wouldn't worry about it all that much. I'll give you some pro tips and like some things that you could do. But the other thing you want to be very careful about is optimizing so much that you hurt your current momentum. And in terms of changing the multiplier focus from top of search to rest of search, I would only change the multiplier focus depending on where you get the best performance would be the thing that I would worry the most about. I wouldn't necessarily worry about it like, should I not be showing up top of search if I'm already ranking? All right, here's what you want to do is you want to test pulling back on the spend for this keyword. And there's two ways you can do it. I'll talk you through those. And then make sure that you are watching your organic rankings and making sure it doesn't hurt you to do this. Because there's some thought, not necessarily wrong, that there is going to be cannibalization if you have an ad running and if you have your organic rank, and you never want to run those in tandem. And it's always terrible if you do, and you're simply wasting money. The thing is that might or may not be true, because what happens is your organic ranking is determined by a sales momentum, and that sales momentum is factoring in your ad orders. So if you need the ad orders to maintain the sales momentum that it requires to rank on that keyword, and the minute you pull back and you like lose any sales momentum, you decrease your ranking, well, then it's not cannibalization because you really needed that campaign and those ads to be able to sustain the ranking. Hopefully that made sense. And so how do you figure out the answer? You have to test it. So here's how you test it. I'll give you a couple tips. One of them is going to be adjusting your bid, which is something that you mentioned. So that's something really good to do. Adjust your bid slowly so you show up lower in search, and then identify, if that impacts your organic ranking. If it doesn't, congratulations. Maybe you can lower it a little bit more and then test it that way. Now, the question would be like, by how much, or what does this look like? And the other question is, how do you do this at scale? And so one of the easiest ways that we found to do this is simply lower the ACoS target, because lowering the ACoS target is going to naturally, I don't care what bid software you're using, what adjustment methodologies you're using, if you lower what you're targeting in terms of ACoS, typically the system is going to lower the bids. But what we found to be the best for this is, again, lower it incrementally. So say I'm running this rank campaign at like a 30% ACoS, what I would do is I would lower my targets to like 27%, maybe even 25% if I want to go a little bit more aggressive. So you're basically like stair-stepping it down in terms of your ACoS targets, and then that will naturally like slowly lower your bid. And then you can test it that way. Or if you wanted to, you could do it a little bit more manual, which would be like to lower the bid manually and kind of go see where you show up. Wait a couple minutes, go look at the search page and kind of see where you show up. Would be another way to do it. And so that's how I did. The other thing that you could test doing, this is another way to do it, is to lower the budgets on that campaign. Now, how well that's going to work would be like, this is ideally done if it's a single keyword campaign. And so the goal here would be, if I lower my bids too much, then I'm not visible in search, and that, kind of creates issues. Maybe I have to maintain aggressive bids to maintain any sort of visibility, but I don't necessarily want to like spend too much here because, again, I'm already ranking, and so I want to test pulling back. Another method for testing pulling back is going to be lowering your campaign budget. But again, recognize when you do that, then you're going to be lowering the budget for like all of the keywords and targets within that campaign. So you have to be careful there. If it's not a single keyword campaign, that's probably not the best method. And then the strategy here is like, I still need a certain amount of orders to maintain the order velocity to continue the rank on this keyword. And again, if I lower my bids too much, that doesn't give me as much visibility as I really need to, but I can't afford to like just keep my budget wide open all day because that gets really expensive. And so what you're doing here is you're saying like, okay, I know if I spend X amount of budget, I'm going to generate X amount of orders. And I'm pretty sure that that's what I need to be able to sustain rank. So then you just cut your budget off like when you've reached those orders, and then you still maintain that order velocity, and then your organic sort of picks up. And that one's more strategic, more advanced, but it can be a good method if you want to test it.